And I wonder whether or not Misfits will be able to punish these small mistakes. Because, I mean, they did punish Kinguin, then they just lost the Baron.
Yeah, they punished them, and then they lost, like, all of their bot lane a lot of the time. So, anyway, Misfits and Kinguin are into Game 2, and we are into Champion Select. Ivan, the first ban. Camille straight away from Kinguin. They are not having the adaptive princess. I don't actually know if she's a princess. She could be a princess. If inside she feels beautiful, she's a princess.
You're a princess, but that's only because of how great you look in a dress.
I do look amazing in a dress.
I have heard.
Maybe one day. Maybe one day. Malzahar, the next ban for Misfits, and the Rengar being taken away from Pride Stalker. No real surprises here. Ivern is a pick that we've seen coming into popularity a lot more over the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
Boxer played it last week in Challenger. We saw a ton of it in LCS this week as well. Just a very strong utility jungler.
Yeah, and also something that Tabasco brought out last week. Not great success on it, but that's not to say that he can't be the champion, right? Just because he had a bad week doesn't mean that it shouldn't be respected still. LeBlanc is actually available, given that Kinguin put more priority on banning Cosgu's Katarina away. Very similar to what we saw in Game 1. But you will allow Cosgu to pick up arguably an even stronger, more snowballier mid laner in the form of LeBlanc instead.
And Cosgu played okay on the rise as well. Got that triple kill bot lane when Kinguin kept pushing in, so having him on one of the power picks is vital for Misfits Academy if they're going to work well. I think the problem for me with Misfits Academy in the first game was there was no one I looked at and said, yes, you know, you're winning your lane, you're dominating.
Oh, I see.
You're playing incredibly well. There was no standout performer until Cosgu was able to pick up a few kills from bad team fights. If you looked at Kinguin, you could say, Tabasco, this is him dictating the play, he's setting the pace. Misfits felt very much like a team of, yeah, they're good players, but there's no standout performer.
Well, I feel a large part of that was just because of the early game. We have to think back to Cosgu's Katarina last week, where he really was very impactful, very aggressive. But now that he will be on the LeBlanc, he should have an opportunity to repeat that kind of an performance, right? But now looking back at the draft, if you're Misfits, you could look to pick up your jungler and Varus. You kind of have to get Varus now because Jhin has already been picked up. Kinguin can then look to rotate a Zyra, so they actually have an incredibly potent bottom lane, and then they can actually pinch the rest of the supports to force streams onto something that wouldn't be great into a Zyra. I think that you should ban away the Tahm Kench really, because I feel like that's definitely a dream champion. But Misfits not getting Varus now would just really condemn them to death in the bottom lane.
It's one of those things, if it wasn't 10 bans, it's fine, leave it until later on, but because it can be banned out in that next rotation, it makes it a lot more vital to select. And Kinguin actually going for the Kassadin here. Now, we saw a Kassadin into Katarina from Schalke against Kinguin later on. I haven't seen the LeBlanc Kassadin matchup that often, mostly because LeBlanc tends to be banned.
Kassadin actually has always been considered a counter to LeBlanc. Not necessarily during the laning phase, but as the game progresses, largely because of how well he outscales, because of the magic shield that he gets so he can match her in a side lane. His itemization naturally does a lot to hinder LeBlanc, because he is a big fan of Abyssal Rod of Ages, which is magic resistance plus stacking health, which hurt burst mages. So he's always been pretty good. And right now, he has a weaker early game, much weaker because of how much stronger LeBlanc's wave clear is compared to old LeBlanc. But if he's able to get through that, and you punish some of the aggressive tendencies that LeBlanc has, like we saw in last week's Schalke game, then it allows the Kassadin to get through laning phase, where he then just flat out outscales the LeBlanc.
LeBlanc can get that push priority in mid lane and the roam priority as well. We talked about it in the start of the first game, lots of vision. Vision is incredibly important in that bot lane river, especially if you can get Scuttle Crab early. Pride Stalker went down towards that bottom side. If you can get Jisoo pushing up that lane, pushing the Kassadin in, making him farm under turret, maybe Jisoo can get those roams off and start to impact bot lane and top lane as well.
It's very reliant on that early snowball, right? Moving back towards the final rotation for Misfits, they're looking to pick up their support. Karma would be pretty safe if you're Dreams. But I feel that Dreams is more of a Bard maybe play, or a Taric maybe would come out now.
The Bard seems like it's strong into the Jhin because you can lock him down in the backline with the Tempered Fate whenever he opens Curtain Call, but Kassadin and Lee Sin, very high mobility, would be able to dodge around it a little bit, so there's always that risk. It's going to be Thresh here for Dreams, so going back to that pick once again. Yeah,
not a fan. I think the pick potential is not great into Lulu. We saw last game what can happen, also during the laning phase. Originally, I was of the perception that just because of how powerful Varus is pushing, you should have the push priority. However, Lulu demonstrates that if Lulu just walks up and forces the Thresh back early levels, he can't trade back, which means that the AD carry is naturally forced back because he doesn't have the assistance of the support, which enables Jhin to at least keep the lane even, right? You don't really want to overpush that lane because you're Jhin. So it's a pretty even lane, mainly, like in terms of nothing really happens. No one really has natural push priority. But the all-in power of Misfits Academy is very potent, right? So if they are able to get a pick, the LeBlanc roam coming down to the bottom lane is a big factor which could enable Misfits to start the snowball. They have a decent teamfight comp, but it's very much like what we saw in Game 1, right? Where you have a lot of pick potential. The difference now is that LeBlanc has been subbed in for Ryze, and you have a Maokai instead of a Shen. So have a little bit more team fighting power, a little less global impact, but I felt like they didn't make much use of the global impact in Game 1 anyway. So what I'd like to see from Misfits Academy this game is utilize the LeBlanc strength they have in the early game, use Pride Stalker to invade, be a little bit more aggressive because you have the support from your mid to move with you. Kassan is not going to be able to offer anything in the early game, and that allows you to get the advantage over Tabasco and prevents him from getting that snowball that he had in Game 1.
A lot of the snowball came from a couple of early picks as well, and then Tabasco was just willing to sit in the enemy jungle and do whatever he wanted. It was a Nautilus pickup last as well for Ice Beasto in that top lane. We saw him play it, I think, once at CSQ. It's a strong pick, but very much just feels like a tank into a tank.
I don't really like Nautilus right now because I think he was very reliant on the courage of the Colossus. And with the nerf to that, I think that it significantly hindered his ability to be impactful in the game.
Well, we are getting on to Summoner's Rift for our second game of the day. Team Kinguin, 1-0 up, have secured their first win in the Challenger Series. Misfits Academy trying to equalize that scoreline.
We talked a lot about what we expect to see in the early game, what we'd like to see from Misfits Academy, being a little bit more aggressive in the early. Want to track the jungle pathing from Tabasco once more, because if he's going to gank anywhere, you could go for a gank mid, punish the fact that Kozq is looking to play aggressively. Bottom lane is another possibility. Like, there really aren't that many options. Like, you could gank top because there's a lot of CC from Nautilus, especially early levels. But I feel like Tabasco could be in some trouble here. I don't think there are that many lanes that he can really gank. Maybe he prioritizes counter ganking, right? Maybe he just invests more time into early vision, looks to try and punish Pride Stalker for setting up those ganks like he did in Game 1.
And he was very adept at doing that in Game 1, able to spot out Pride Stalker, understand where he's going. G2 and Pride Stalker are just actually going for an invade here. They'll be spotted out by a ward. Immediately, Sebex reacts as well. Starts to move up. Tabasco and Ice Beasto will walk away. Still just around the corner, chucks out a Sonic Wave. No connection, though. Misfits Academy don't get anything out of it. Vision control in that entry point was vital, and it means that Tabasco is not pushed behind.
So Tabasco once again starting top side of his jungle. Similar for Pride Stalker. This isn't too surprising for Pride Stalker because what he wants to gain is vision control over bot side river. Maokai is naturally going to get pushed in by the Nautilus because of how often he just spams his E. So it's fine for him to be under turret. He has the safety. He can even ward his Tri-Brush if he wants to. And you can see once again the bottom lane actually getting that early push from Delord again, just forcing Dreams back because it's difficult for him to trade back against the Lulu.
It's the power of having that help pick shield as well. You can harass without fear of losing your health in response. Delord just continuing to get those little extra auto attacks down. Mid lane, Kozq's pushed it up already. 6 CS to 3, just forces the wave in, tries to make Sebex have to farm underneath his turret, tries to just continue to harass the Kassan as much as possible so that he can start looking to work with Pride Stalker, to be that roaming gank squad that they need to be to get ahead.
Jungle pathing this game is actually very interesting because Tabasco always taking pretty unique routes where he's actually gone red to Raptors into his Wolves, and then he's going to blue. Oh no, he's just going to go straight for the Scuttle Cow. Okay, this is fine, getting the early level 3. I say early level 3. He's going to get level 3 at about the right time, then look to get that early vision. Whereas Pride Stalker this time actually putting more value on clearing top side, the full top side of his jungle, and then moving towards the red. So both junglers actually taking the same jungle path on blue side. I'd like to now see Pride Stalker move up and get vision control over top river. And I think a part of that is because of the pushing power that Kinguin's bottom lane have right now. It means that there is easier support in the event that Tabasco gets collapsed on. But I think that when you have a LeBlanc, you should be the one being the aggressor, trying to get that early vision. Either way, I think it's quite nice to see variation in jungle pathing rather than just buff, camp, buff, and then look to get vision. That's paying off.
But how much does it actually give you, the variation? Because you say it's
I mean,
nice
not
to
much
see.
right now, not much, right? But it could very well result in a lot because for example, you can see the ward that's been put down by Ice Beasto in the top half of the Misfits jungle. This tells you, because the Gromp is gone, that Pride Stalker is in the bottom half of his jungle. So now you can see that Woolite and Delord have actually given away a lot of the pressure they had early on because they are afraid of the possible gank from Pride Stalker. So where you clear out and where you actually spot out what's been cleared gives you a lot of information about the positioning of the jungler. Now you have kind of lost that knowledge because initially it was valuable, but now he's gone back to base, he will have bought, and so people just kind of have to go around playing, oh, we know nothing about the junglers again.
Well, ward will spot out that other ward across towards the side, so they know that Tabasco is around there. You can see it because your ward is being denied. Hasn't actually cleared it out, which is something we do see some of the time. You know, leave it up, it's not doing any harm anyway. And now Pride Stalker's going to go for a little bit of an aggressive invade here. He's not sure where Tabasco is, but does have push priority in mid, although KNG backed at the same time. Yeah. So if Pride Stalker had been caught out, KNG would have had to be very quick on that trigger finger to stop himself from going back to base.
It's that very reason why I think that play was risky. And this is why we were talking a little bit about these small mistakes from Pride Stalker. Perhaps a bit of lack of awareness, maybe a little bit more of a solo queue mentality rather than a competitive play. Jisoo taking a lot of damage.
Jisoo taking a huge amount of damage. He's just dead. Jisoo, that was unintended, I'm sure, from him. He just took Corrupting Potion, he took minion damage, he took Riptide, and he took the fall as he's the first member to go down.
Props to Tabasco, though, for actually smiting the minion. So that he was able to land the Q and get himself the kill. But nothing but criticism for Jisoo, as I have no idea why he decided to tank an entire minion wave. I guess he didn't want it to hit the turret so he could try and freeze it. But now he's being forced to use his teleport, giving away first blood to Tabasco once again. I don't know, is the short version of that. There's no reason for Jisoo to make that play.
Pride Stalker was on that side of the map, so maybe his thought was if Ice Beasto is
there's no reason to lose that much HP to a minion wave, right? Like, what do you gain from it? If you want to just clear the wave and TP back, then you can do that. I don't know. I do not know, friend.
Sebek's caught out with the 2 chains here from KNG. Not yet level 6, so can't Rift Walk his way away. Ignite used as well just for the harass, and Pride Stalker's waiting in the wings, going to see if perhaps he can elite himself in. Here's Tabasco. KNG doesn't take turret aggro. Catches out Tabasco with the ethereal chains, but Sebek safe underneath his tower for the moment. Woolite hooked in though. Yuki going for the kill. Dreams. Great play. Exhaust down though, and now Yuki goes in with the dark passage. Chased onto Woolite. Flash away. Flashed in by Dreams. The shield. The help picks. The kill onto Yuki. They turn it on its head. Dreams now getting chased away as well. Kinguin getting the rub of the green here. They'll be able to take out Dreams. The help picks. Damage is huge. And D-Lord and Woolite make the big play.
Kinguin getting themselves an advantage in the 2 versus 2 in the bottom lane. Misfits Academy tried to force the all-in, and they end up getting punished for it. It could have been a very favorable trade, but where things really went wrong is when Yuki and Dreams both flashed into that big minion wave that was just sitting and waiting for them to be out of position. They took so much additional damage that they didn't need to take. Woolite with a good snipe with the Deadly Flourish to Tabasco now.
That's just intelligent. Like, that's just intelligent play to think, I'm not going to face check this. I can Sonic Wave it. It'll be back up in a second anyway. I've got energy to burn. Here comes the depth charge onto Jisoo as he tries to burn. Sorry, Ice Beasto tries to burn through Jisoo. No flash for either of them, though, which means Ice Beasto cannot go for the full chase. Jisoo will escape to live another day.
I don't know why Jisoo's playing so aggressively. I feel like there's no need for it. But let's look back at this. So, good hook from Dreams. Woolite overstepping there to just make that play really easy. You can see at this point, you just be happy that you forced the summoners out. The flash has gone for Woolite, and this is where you stop. You've now overcommitted. Look at all the minion waves that are still hitting onto Yuki. As he's overextended, he flashes away because he realizes that Delord is still full HP and can just keep pounding on you without you having enough damage to clean things up. And I feel like you should have just been happy with that. You take the Lantern, you force the flash out from Woolite, then as a 2-man unit, you turn your attention to the support, you force him back, you clear out the wave. Hey, Misfits Academy, they get a big advantage in the bottom lane. Instead, they give away 2 kills to a Jhin and a Lulu. Both are now hit level 6. Tabasco can look for a roam bot because there's no summoner spells on Misfits Academy. And just all across the board for Misfits, mistakes after mistakes after mistakes.
Fightstalker realizes that that bot lane priority is probably there, so he's going to come down towards this 2v2, turning it into a 3v3 as Tabasco waits just around the corner, but won't quite get anything yet. The Infernal Drake's been obviously on Summoner's Rift for a while now. No one's really decided to try and take that dragon down. Tabasco will ward this up. Fightstalker's just around the corner though, and here comes the damage. Taste their fear, getting huge swipes away. Wild Growth used. D-Lord saves his jungler.
Fightstalker is sitting just behind the Tribush, so that even if Tabasco throws the ward in, he wouldn't get spotted by the vision. Realizes that Tabasco wants to go for a gank bot, and so Fightstalker just jumps on him, forces the flash, nearly gets the kill, but Tabasco just barely able to get away with his life, and then with the support from D-Lord, more than enough to enable him to escape. So flash from both junglers. No real advantages gained, but it will allow KNG to play a little bit more aggressively because he now has the positioning of both junglers.
However, he's behind in CS. He hasn't been able to roam around the map as much as he'd like to. Hasn't had the impact on this LeBlanc that we expected him to have. You said early game, Kassadin gets pushed in, LeBlanc can do something. He hasn't done much.
Nope. He was playing pretty aggressively early on, but it's fine for Kha'Zix to farm under turret. Any Kha'Zix player should know that under the turret is where they spend the first 6 levels of the game. Now that he's completed his rock thing of health and mana.
Catalyst of Aeons.
I'm just the color dude. But yeah, now that he's completed that, he can work towards the Sword of Ages, and then because he has all that stacking health, which is super valuable against versus Woolite, gets hooked him again.
Hook once again onto Woolite. No Wild Growth here. Exhaust down, the heal used as well. But because Dreams and Yuki are behind from those earlier kills, even though they get everything, they cannot escape. The Kurniku comes down. Dreams is not quite dead yet. He is now as the final shot connects. And they get the dragon. Misfits Academy losing out across the map.
Misfits Academy once again trying to go for the all-in in the bottom lane. They responded better this time by actually disengaging because they realized that Sebex was moving on the map. They realized that their jungler was nowhere near to help them out. And they end up losing anyway because Woolite had his ultimate available. Now we see more trading up in the top lane. This is surprisingly action-packed than what you'd really expect from two tanks.
The thing is, though, every time G2 goes in, Icebeasto immediately retreats. He's not even trying to take the trades because he sees Fightstalker and KNG leaving their lanes, or he expects them to be coming. So he's just like, yeah, it's fine. I'm just going to go back to tower. I don't need to kill you. Everywhere else is winning. I'm happy enough just to walk away and mean that I'm wasting the time of your mid laner and your jungler.
You seen KNG leave mid yet? Because
he keeps trying to get up, and then he sees Icebeasto going back. It's like, well, I can't kill him now. He's back under his tower. That makes me wonder.
I feel like, I suppose he has to go top because his bot lane has fallen to pieces ever so slightly.
Ever so slightly, it's fallen to pieces. There's a completed Yumu's on Woolite and no completed item yet on Yuki. There's a 15 CS advantage, huge gold advantages across the board. And like bot lane has been a catastrophe here for Misfits Academy.
Well, as a Brit, I like to look at the bright side, you know? I look for the sunshine on that rainy day.
As an Englishman, I had a big bright side yesterday when Wales lost. Can you remember that?
No, I don't remember that happening. Now look at both junglers in the mid.
Trying to get in, flash away. KNG actually flashed in there. I thought it was Sebex flashing away, but it was just the Void Whip.
So the reason for the flash from KNG was because he knew that Sebex would rift walk away, and he wanted to preemptively land the chain as the rift walk was coming out. So it's a thing that Nocturnes also do when they throw out the Tether Blade. They know the opponent is going to flash the fear, so you flash in advance. So even when they flash, you don't actually get far enough. Yeah, you're close enough to the blade that, or the chain, that you still end up locking them down. I like the idea from KNG, just a bit of a mishap in terms of the execution.
And that's kind of the summary of Misfits this game. A lot of their ideas have been good. They've been thinking about what they want to do, but the execution has been poor. They've overstepped, especially in bot lane. Woolite and D-Lord taking a huge advantage now. And I actually want to come back to that as well, because Woolite, before we saw Kinguin play, we said Woolite is one of the experienced players on this team, probably the most experienced player on this team. He needs to be that driving force. He needs to be that leader. And last week we saw a few signs of life from Woolite and D-Lord. They were the only lane that really looked competent against Schalke. Here, the first game didn't really have to show up. This game, they have showed up no end.
And it does certainly help that Misfits Academy have made such aggressive moves that have been punished, and now we get to see Kinguin utilize the roaming Kha'Zix as he looks to make a dive down bottom.
Tabasco there as well. Kassadin waiting in the bush, but there's a ward there. Just spots him out. Fightstalker and KNG once again. They're there. They're not doing anything. it feels to me very much, as I said, like Misfits know what they want to do. They just can't quite work out exactly how to do it.
They had to move to the bottom lane because they were responding to the roam from Kinguin. A little unfortunate for KNG, given how... Like, the thing is, he's not even that far behind, right? He just had to snowball. But that's what this matchup is very dependent on. And he couldn't get quite enough of a lead during the laning phase to actually net any real gain. You can see that he's still hyper-aggressive against Sebex. He still wins out on the extended 1 versus 1. But Sebex is not dying. He has TP. He's just farming away. Often why Kassadin is considered a pretty safe pick. The big difference between Challenge Series and, say, somewhere like Korea is Korean teams are very good at utilizing the early strength of LeBlanc, and maybe if they can't snowball the mid, they'll utilize the push advantage to snowball top, snowball bot. And because of all this early action that's happening, the deaths on bot lane, the flashes and deaths on top lane, LeBlanc has nowhere to roam. He didn't make map movements with Pride Stalker into the enemy jungle, didn't try to punish Tabasco. And it's now resulting in a LeBlanc that has had nothing to do this game. Just push mid, farm, yeah, sure. Win out against Sebex. And the fact that he's gone for it early, I don't like this. I really don't like this.
Why?
The changes to Abyssal, I just don't think it's good. It's more of a defensive tool now rather than it was before, where you had that passive mana magic resistance reduction. It's now just improves magic damage, right? But if you don't do much magic damage in the first place, it doesn't really improve very much. I feel like the Morello is way more valuable in terms of getting that early snowball. I don't like it. I don't like it.
I can understand that. I think maybe KNG, the argument on the counterpoint is he says, I'm not snowballing. I can't find a way to snowball. Let's just be a little bit...
But now you're conceding the lane to Kassadin, who's always gonna... he's just gonna snowball. He's gonna outscale you, right? In the side lane, Kassadin's going to have the advantage. In the later game, Kassadin's going to have the advantage.
Oh, Sebex jumps in because Tabasco's here. KNG kicked across the wall. The Sonic Wave inches away. Pride Stalker, though, gets taken out. KNG tried to jump back in. Tower down in the bottom lane. That's first turret, but the teleport in as they look for KNG. Jisoo's come down as well. Tabasco and Sebex have retreated. And it looks like it's going to be pretty good here for Kinguin. Get tower, get a kill, and get out.
Misfits Academy are just falling apart now. Yuki, he's caught out.
Yeah, there's no escape from this apart from flashing across the wall, but straight into the curtain call. He's trying to put on his dancing shoes. He's tapping on the stage, but the curtain comes down straight on his head. And Woolite is unstoppable.
6 kills to 0, a 4,000 gold lead in favor of Kinguin. They are just dismantling Misfits Academy right now. And while you have to give praise to Kinguin, a lot of the advantages have just come off the mistakes from Misfits Academy. In game 1, it was a very different affair where we saw the early leads being built up by Tabasco, by Ice Beasto. But this game, it's just top lane dying 1v1, bottom lane dying 2 versus 2, KNG going for this itemization and them losing out in the 2 versus 2 against LeBlanc. Kha'Zix losing to Kassadin, Lee Sin. Like, that should not happen. I mean, this late in the game, yes, if you concede the lane to a Kassadin, yes. But I'm now wondering, how do Misfits Academy come back? Because they were so reliant on getting the early advantage, using the LeBlanc to roam around the map. Very much from what we saw from Vitality earlier on. When GBM got that LeBlanc, getting 2 solo kills, he really made that LeBlanc work, right? But this game, you haven't seen that early snowball, and KNG is really struggling to have an impact.
He is, and I said between the games, do Misfits Academy need to go towards these more lane-winning champions? Do they need to say, oh yeah, we'll go for the aggressive, mechanically intense champions that will just win the lane? It doesn't feel like this has worked for them at all. They've gone away from their usual scaling composition.
Dive top.
Yeah, they're going to go up towards the top side. D-Lord there, Pride Stalker going in, but he's just caught out. This is misplay after misplay by Misfits, and they're all at ends. KNG comes in once again, but he's all by himself. Wild growth from Woolite, not really doing much as Sebex continues to chase. He can just jump in. He's not afraid of the Misfits. KNG has to flash away from the deadly flourish. Jisoo there as the front line, isn't really doing much against Sebex. The curtain call comes down. Dream's going to tank that one up. Not quite connecting, but Misfits start the fight, and Kinguin say thank you very much. We'll take that, and we'll take your top lane tower.
These are the kind of plays that Misfits Academy wanted to be making 5-7 minutes ago. Using that LeBlanc to try and move around the map. The Dreams Pride Stalker combo that we saw work actually very well in game 1 to allow Misfits to slowly edge their way back into things. But it's just too little too late. Kassadin is too strong. His ability to move around the map is so potent that it's quick to punish the small misplays from Misfits Academy. And now Kinguin, with 2 Infernal Rakes under their belt, a 2-tower advantage, they are putting immense pressure down onto Misfits.
Almost exactly a week ago, Kinguin were at the wrong side of a devastating loss to Schalke. It was the first game of the EU Challenger Series split, and they got perfect gamed. They are now on course to perfect game Misfits Academy, who looked incredibly strong week 1 at points. It's a different academy. KNG caught out with a depth charge. We'll get onto Dreams as well. Ice Beast still continuing with the chase. Sebex in. Woolite gets the kill. KNG taken out as well. There's just nothing Misfits Academy can do, and it's 8-0 to Kinguin, and they continue to take these towers.
KNG and Dreams just a little bit too overextended in the mid lane. They'd burnt all of their summoner spells up in the top lane play. The flank from Ice Beast, though, just threw down the ultimate, and it was an easy collapse from the side of Kinguin. They're going for more, but they'll be happy with just the tower.
Just taking the tower is all they need at the moment. 6,000 gold ahead. And let's have another look at this flank from Ice Beasto.
He was just killing the Scuttle Crab, right? There was no vision from the side of Misfits Academy. KNG plays a little bit aggressively, just pushing the wave in. Bear in mind, they had no summoner spells. It's just easy cleanup. There's so much mobility on the side of Kinguin. Well, it added mobility when you flash in, I suppose, from Woolite. But it's just another kill to add to your scoreboard. Pad out that KDA, and now with the Edge of Night and Ghostblade completed, my word, Woolite is so fed right now.
Dominant performance by him in the bottom lane. Great play by D-Lord as well. I think we've talked a lot about Woolite. D-Lord continually harassing early game, getting those wild growths down at the perfect time, actually stopping Tabasco from dying in that 1v1. And his whimsies. You need to focus on who he's whimsying and when he's doing it, because he negates so much damage by whimsying Yuki, stopping those autos, stopping those arrows. KNG jumps in, whimsy immediately. You can't get the burst down. He is playing incredibly well.
And that ties into how difficult it will now become, or even more difficult for Misfits to come back into the game, right? Because the clear window is get picks, right? So Woolite right now, he has no flash, he's moving around the map. You set up base vision control around your entrances, and you look for small opportunities where you can get these picks, right? But if you have a Lulu roaming around the map too, every time you go for the pick, then Pix is there to save the day, right? So Team Kinguin, they have a lot of answers to this LeBlanc pick. They were very calculated by letting it through. They knew how they wanted to play it, and so far they have done a great job.
And it's that next level of thinking. It's saying, look, we can let LeBlanc go through. We're more scared of other picks. Let's let LeBlanc through, and let's work out how we deal with it, rather than just saying we can't, say, how can we? And that's exactly what Kinguin have done. It would be very easy for them after that week 1 performance to say, look, we can't. We're not going to be able to take games off these high-level teams. But they've stepped up. They've shown their stuff. KNG jumps in onto Sebex once again. Chains on a minion. Sebex going to try and trade back in. And KNG's just not landing what he needs to land to take down this Kassadin.
Would just like to bear in mind that even though it looks like Sebex is being forced back, if he wanted to, he would win out on that trade. The reason why he's not using any of his abilities to trade back is because he doesn't have enough vision over the topside jungle to risk using his gap closes that aggressively. This is just good awareness from Sebex, realizing that I can't afford to go for this all in, even though he knows he's much stronger, because KNG, with no cooldown reduction, has big windows between those abilities, right? So it's very easy for a Kassadin who naturally, once he gets a couple levels under his belt, has fairly low cooldowns, to punish this big window of LeBlanc.
Gone for the Mercury treads as well, just to make sure that LeBlanc can't do too much. Now has Abyssal, Rod of Ages at 8 stacks almost completed. It feels very much like the scaling composition coming out from Kinguin is just going to win out the day. They haven't even really had a rough game. Like, usually when you have something like a Kassadin in the mid lane, you have a rough early game and then you get back into it. Here, it's just been Kinguin from the word go, and a lot of that does come back down to what you continually say, misplays from Misfits. They're just overstepping. Third Infernal definitely helps them as well. It's quite a nice bonus to have, a cherry on top of the cupcake.
The thing I just find quite funny is the fact that LeBlanc, even if you can't snowball mid lane, you can snowball the side lanes, right? And then top lane dies. And then bot lane dies too. The only way in which Misfits couldn't snowball was if they're both side lanes threw away their early game, and that's exactly what they did, which is just making KNG's life so difficult. He had nowhere to roam, he had to win mid lane, and Sebex played way too defensively. He clearly understands the matchup to a very good degree, in which that he did not give KNG that snowball.
Games slow down a little bit now.
Oh yeah.
It feels like Kinguin are just waiting for their next step. They're gaining vision. They're trying to step forward into the jungle, moving that control ward line up step by step by step. But Misfits are being able to respond, you know? They're behind by a long way, but they're not losing anything at the moment. There's no gain of advantage for Kinguin. What is the next step? What is your next move if you're Kinguin? Well, it looks like they're going to try and TP in behind KNG here. Ice Beasto there, Stalker's on his way up. The hook lands, KNG knocked up with the depth charge and taken down by Ice Beasto.
You punish the over-aggressive tendencies of KNG, and now Stalker's next on the list.
Going to try and void assault, and then will flash. He will get away, but now Baron is on the cards. All of Kinguin are up towards the top side of the map. It looks instead, however, like they might have been going towards mid. They'll start up the Baron, spotted out by that far side alteration. Here comes Jisoo. He's still a Maokai. He's still a tank. Wild growth on D-Lord. Chains come down as well. Kinguin trying to turn on towards Misfits as they engage. Stalker in the back line. He can't jump into that. Will stop Kinguin getting the Baron. It's another delay from Misfits Academy. Slowly trying to get their way back into this game.
Kinguin largely just using the Baron to bait Misfits Academy out towards a fight. The fact that Jisoo was the initiator and the fact that the other two members of Misfits Academy were in that choke point behind the Maokai meant that they could do free damage, force Kinguin away, and then use the Lantern to get Jisoo out to safety. I like the play from Misfits, good response to dissuade them from the Baron, and the fact that they didn't hard commit and allow Kinguin to just clean them up and then turn into a Baron is good awareness from Misfits. But you still have to criticize them, right? Because KNG not showing the same restraint that Sevex was demonstrating, not respecting the possibility of a collapse from the jungler, the top laner. And that surprises me, given as to how much of a veteran of the challenger scene KNG is, right? He has been around the competitive scene for an incredibly long time, and you would expect him to show that level of respect, especially given as to how convincing Kinguin were in Game 1.
Very easy to get frustrated, though. Curtain call onto Yuki. 2 shots hit. If all of these connect, Yuki's just going to die. Woolite snipes away his opposite man, and it means Kinguin can quite easily take down this tower.
Nothing but props for Woolite landing all 4 of those shots. Yuki wasn't even in the wrong place. It was just Woolite being a very good Jhin player. Now they're pushing in. Look, Maokai still isn't there. LeBlanc being forced to walk back because of Sevex. Free inhibitor tower going over to Team Kinguin after what was a very clean pick.
They have been so clean this game. It has been step by step, it's been logical, it's been very smart and intelligent play, and now they're going for the inhibitor. KNG is going to come in here, lands onto D-Lord, Wild Growth used, TP in by Sebex. Just trying to force Misfits Academy back. Yuki is back up, but KNG's low, and that will be the inhibitor falling. Here comes Jisoo onto Sebex in the midst of the entire team. KNG low, though. Yuki's joined the fight once again. Redemption. Ice Beasto there. Jisoo still on the backline doing work. Woolite somehow surviving for a while, but not for long enough as Jisoo takes him down. This is great for Misfits. They've got 3 kills. They've got so much damage onto Ice Beasto as well. The snipe with the arrow, and it's only Sebex surviving. 4 for 1 in favor of Misfits.
Misfits Academy actually being able to win out a fight is monumental for this lineup. Kinguin invest a little bit too much into getting themselves the inhibitor. They don't respect the flank from KNG. They do not respect the tanking prowess of Jisoo. But now going for the Baron, this is a very risky decision.
Incredibly risky. Sebex is still here. Misfits are low. Stalker not the tank.
I see a Quadra.
He wants to be. I see a Quadra too, and Sebex wants it.
Oh!
1, looks for 2, doesn't get it. Dreams almost dies, somehow survives. It's not a Quadra, but he stops the Baron and he takes down KNG.
I was just waiting for his E to just come across all 3 members and wipe them out.
Here's a force pulse for you.
But
it's like
1 for 1, stops the Baron. Kinguin now making their way towards the Baron. All 3 members that were setting up for it have now just been forced back. DeLord clearing out the minion wave.
There's a control ward there as well, but Misfits are in their base at the moment. They've started it up. Woolite is very strong. He will take this down pretty quickly. Here comes the TP in by Jisoo, though. Kinguin still on that Baron. Jisoo trying to get here in time. Ice Beasto jumps across the wall with the blast cone. Baron down to 4,000. No jungler yet for Misfits, but they've gone away from the Baron. Jisoo's forced them back. Now they're going to go for the Baron. It's 1 by 1. Here comes the curtain call. The box down as well by Dreams. Ice Beasto the front line for Kinguin. Jisoo jumps in the hook onto Ice Beasto. Now Kinguin need to work out how to re-engage this fight. They're onto Jisoo, who is miles away from the rest of Misfits, who don't seem to want to go in. Jisoo, low, hook. KNG, though, onto Tabasco, jumps in, gets the chains down. Here's Sebex, he's looking for that quadra he missed out on just a moment ago. Jump, there's one, Jisoo runs away. Misfits on the back foot, Brightstalker caught. Ice Beasto landing, hook after hook after hook. And Kinguin take down 2.
The big problem for Misfits Academy was their unwillingness to engage on that fight. KNG could not find a good flank. Jisoo just soaked up so much of the damage for so long, but Misfits Academy could not capitalize on it. Eventually, the front line goes down. Sebex arrives to start cleaning up the fight, and KNG...
Yeah, he's dead.
Yeah, he is in fact dead. Should be a free Baron for Team Kinguin. And now they're in a prime position to close out Game 2. But there goes the perfect game. Man,
oh no!
There it goes.
Oh, VODS.
Gone.
I'm slightly disappointed by that, but again, it's just Baron play after Baron play here. Jisoo, they switch onto it, and now Kinguin re-engage.
Okay, so watch Jisoo in this fight, right? Look at how long he soaks up 4 members of Team Kinguin. Even Ice Beasto is hitting onto him, right? 4 members of Misfits, but they're getting zoned away. They're not doing anything. There is no damage output. There is no support for the rest of their team. He even only lands the ultimate onto Ice Beasto, isn't able to do anything. KNG comes into the fight at the very end and he can't even get a kill because of the support from Team Kinguin. And now finally Sebex joins the fray and all Misfits can do is retreat.
And that's a great hook onto Brightstalker as well. I mean, Yuki and Brightstalker are next to each other, so you're probably going to hit it on one, although Yuki did have the Edge of Night. Tabasco will spot out Jisoo here. No, someone's around the corner because of that scry is blue. Tabasco going ham straight into the backline, and actually Woolite's here to join him. And we'll just force Misfits Academy away. Yuki was quite low there after taking a bit of poke beforehand, but now Dragon on the cards. It's going to be another easy take for Kinguin. Their objective control has been monumental this game.
The big thing we have to say at this point is that Kinguin still leave a lot of question marks to me, because a lot of their leads have come from the misplays from Misfits Academy. Even when it comes to these Baron plays, a lot of them have come off a result of Misfits trying to force things like the Baron, right? Or Misfits giving away so many kills in really bad positions that Kinguin can just turn around, as now we see Sebex. Now he can hard commit.
Yeah, he can hard commit straight onto KNG. The rest of his team down in that bottom lane means that it's very easy for him to know he's safe. Once again, Woolite opens up those curtains, gets a couple of snipes onto Dreams, one onto Yuki as well. There's the last one. Yuki down below half HP as Ice Beasto dives the tower. Dream dead. Woolite crit him for 1,300 damage. It's huge. Jisoo now the target. Misfits all in arrears, can do nothing but get the hell out of here. Back towards their fountain. Woolite's on a rampage. He has been devastating this game, and the Nexus towers are being destroyed. This will be Kinguin taking it 2-0 over Misfits Academy.
Very clean game from Kinguin overall. They made that one mistake in the mid lane, but other than that, they got themselves a very good early lead. They punished it very nicely. They knew they had a scaling composition that would have much larger of an impact as the game progressed. We were yet to see them actually set up a proper 1-3-1. They did at the very end there, which is what they should have done maybe a little bit earlier. But nevertheless, don't want to take anything away from them. The big question marks for me is, how well will they do against some of the other strong teams? Because for me, I was thinking Misfits Academy actually seemed like one of the stronger teams. Misfits Academy do seem like one of the top 3 contenders from what we saw in week 1. But then there were a couple of question marks. They lost Kadir in the jungler, who was a big playmaker and part of the team. And so far from what we're seeing is that perhaps that loss was bigger than initially anticipated.
You have to remember it's synergy as well. It's understanding what your mid laner wants to do, when your top laner wants to go in, where you need to be, reading the enemy jungler. Brightstalker, he was good in CSQ, but he didn't really show up today, and he wasn't playing the same sort of style as he was in CSQ. In CSQ, it was go in, if I die, I die, I'll get some kills. Here, he was very tentative. A lot of the time, we saw him coming into fights late, trying to get in from the back, and it's just like, no one's low enough for you to actually do anything on this Kha'Zix.
And we saw very small misplays in terms of respecting his opponent, having good vision control, and knowing how to properly play around the early game. So still early days, still many weeks left of the Challenger Series, but congratulations for Team Kinguin, and perhaps some work to be done for the side of Misfits Academy.
That's 1 series under our belts, and we've got 2 to go still. After the break, we'll have Fnatic Academy taking on Millennium. We'll see you in 210 seconds. Like hooked in though, Yuki going for the kill. Dreams, great play, exhaust down though, and now Yuki goes in with the dark passage, chased onto Woolite, flash away, flashed in by Dreams, the shield, the help picks, the kill onto Yuki, they turn it on its head. Dreams now getting chased away as well. Kinguin getting the rub of the green here, they'll be able to take out Dreams. The help picks, damage is huge. It looks like they're going to try and TP in behind Kozgu here. Ice Beasto, their Pride Stalker's on his way up. The hook lands, Kozgu knocked up with the depth charge and taken down by Ice Beasto. You're very easy to get frustrated though. Curtain call onto Yuki, 2 shots hit. If all of these connect, Yuki's just going to die. Woolite snipes away his opposite man. And Woolite's on a rampage. He has been devastating this game. And the